Hey guys, welcome to the Music Combine, episode 104, Stephen Shaw, touring in the time of pandemic. Here we go. You there, Steve?
Yeah, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you clearly and fine, my man.
So, gentlemen, how are you?
You're a handsome man, Stephen Shaw. Good. How are you doing this evening?
Yourself.
How is
I just got done.
Lovely EFM hat you're wearing there, sir.
Yeah. Well, I just got done delivering smiles today.
Smiles is what you're delivering these days, so I understand.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, so yeah, go ahead. Someone's going to talk. Oh, no, you've been telling me you've been delivering smiles in quite a big way for people, which is great.
Delivering smiles. That's what Amazon calls it.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they really call it?
Honest to God. They say, remember, you're not delivering.
Honest to God.
You're not delivering packages. You're delivering smiles.
Smiles.
Yeah. It's like, am I a prostitute now? Do I get bonus? What's going on here? Because I can. I'll deliver more than that if you want. Hey, he needed the money. No, it's all good.
He needed the money.
Hey,
Jackie Chan went up the quill. Come back with a bucket of quarter.
I'm always happy when I get
Jill came down with $250.
Nice to meet you, Stephen.
Yeah, you as well. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm appreciating it. Great that you're on the show.
Good.
Yeah, it's great. We get to start our first episode with your brother, David.
God help us all.
God help us all. That's a cross to bear sometimes.
I listened to the episode. I liked it.
Yeah.
And he's not a man that's short of words.
No. Definitely not.
Houston, we have a talker.
We have a talker. We definitely have a talker. But yeah, it's great to have you on here onto the Music Combine.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
First off, obviously, let's just dive in. You were out on the road with Cage the Elephant during the pandemic. When the pandemic first outbroke in Europe. And
that's correct. Yes.
Kind of explain to us kind of what happened, because I know the story of what the end of the tour looked like, but during the time you were there, what was it kind of like?
You started to hear about it, like on social media, of course, everything that was going on in China. Then you heard about it spreading to other places, and then you were slowly, like out of the corner of your eye, seeing and hearing things, but because it wasn't really directly affecting you, as with most things in life, we're humans. If something isn't directly affecting us, we make ourselves aware of it, but we don't really assimilate it until it's actually there facing you. Mm-hmm. Our last show was in Milan, which is the only show that we did cancel. Surprisingly, probably having known what we know now, we probably would have cut that tour short. We were actually over there when that broke out in Milan really bad, and they pretty much, that's when they shut down all sporting events and any social gatherings and everything like that. So I had never seen anything quite like that before in any country. And watched it grow with that country on a daily basis. So by the time we were in the Netherlands, they were forbidding any Italian people anywhere near any of the other countries. And I just kind of put two and two together. I'm like, you know what? This is something I've never seen before and experienced. So I have a funny feeling that this is going to happen worldwide, only because historically of what I've read about, like with the Spanish flu and everything. I've never seen anything quite like it in my life. Fortunately, none of us were affected at all. So
there you go.
Yeah. Ow.
Mike or Steve, I guess Mike, why don't you read off a little bit to our viewers, listeners, readers on where Stephen comes from?
Yes. Well, Stephen and I, let's just kind of go through the backstory. Stephen and I met when I was 16, and Stephen's father was my science teacher in high school at St. Andrews in Rhode Island.
Are you sure it was you were 60? I think you were younger.
Was I younger? Was I 15?
I believe so, because I recall you.
Yeah, you were 25. So you would it would had to have been.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would have had to have been. And so I was, hell bent to shred. I wanted to shred all day long, dude, on the guitar. And I knew Steven was the local resident rock star. So as I do in my very precocious nature, I made sure I made friends with the people who I knew were successful, because we all know success in schools. And Steven became my guitar teacher. And over time, when I really had to make the hard decision if I was going to go to music school or if I was going to make a career in music, Steven was the one who really guided me. He's been my mentor probably for close to now almost 30 years. Wow. And that kind of tells our ages. But the thing is that, a lot of the success I've had commercially or otherwise, really a lot of those steps and a lot of those things I put forward, and don't cry, Steven, is
you're full of shit.
Yeah, full of shit, kid. But it's really because of him, and I've told him that before. But just that's kind of the deal. And the thing was, is Steven gave me my first real touring gig, with Marcy Playground.
Oh, okay, that was 3 years.
He was the tour manager and front of house guy for them. And Steven's career has spanned, his star has risen in that world of tour managers and sound guys and guys who get it done, and the guy who does it perfectly all the time. Mm-hmm. And is really good at dealing with, honestly, like really good at dealing with problems and logistics, because that's the one thing that can always be the snafu in any tour, is that. And Steven's worked with the likes of, we said, Marcy Playground, a System of a Down, to Drowning Pool, to all these bands. Has been on probably every major festival you can think of, been to every major festival in Europe you can think of, that anyone like drools over to go to Best. Over the summer he was with Amon Amarth. I got to see that whole process as their production manager, which was kind of a new entree for you, right? That was the first you've production managed before.
It was a fun challenge. It was kind of like assembling the Disneyland show for everybody, and really networking and bringing in a lot of my talented friends and other people that really helped elevate an already existing cool show to another level. Mm-hmm. And it was just fun being part of it. And I'm not going to say a lot about it other than if you get a chance, go out and see them. The show is fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing.
The Europe show was obviously the best because that's where we had the real. And
I got to see a slight glimpse of it at the Palladium in LA in October when they were doing the last US show here in Los Angeles. And man, I tell you, a 50-foot dragon does not look impressive unless you have flames around it.
Oh,
and I know the Ice Titans and everything else, and I'm kind of giving it away, but like I've seen some of it on YouTube, and it's freaking sick.
Yeah, and props again out to the good folks at Airworks, because they do such incredible work there. It's so detailed, and I can tell you right now how sturdy their stuff is, having watched their inflatables get tagged with G-flames and not falling apart. And G-flames are not a laughing matter. They would send us to the hospital with third-degree burns.
Yeah.
Okay.
These guys stayed inflated. So, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of talented people out there that make shows like that. And, and any of those shows with theatrics like Iron Maiden, things of that nature, are the companies you never hear about. And they're in Holland. And they're the only company that they're the ones. Every inflatable that you see on tour right now, anyone that's got any notoriety, was built by them.
I saw the one with Mana, and it literally at the Forum back in December, and it was this amazing 75-foot. Thanks to the good folks at Live Nation for getting me into that show. But it was an amazing 75-foot elephant that just popped out of nowhere. And then the trunk moved like back and forth and was swaying out CO2 out the bottom of it. It was amazing.
That's great.
That's pretty badass.
What's really cool about stuff like that is you see how large that is. We move those around in row cases that are, they're not small, but they're usually not even. They're about a 16th of the size of the case of the object that you see. It's how they're inflated. We use Gibbons fans, and they're each fan, like for instance with the Ice Vikings, they take 2-piece, so it's 4 horsepower of air being blown into it at a high rate, and so they have to go up quick. Anyway, all that stuff was fun. I never really dove into the full production manager thing, and I had a good time doing that.
It was really cool because I got to actually when Steven comes or runner. And it's always fun because you get to hang out with your best friend. But the thing was, is on that one, I actually got to go to some of the production meetings with him and see how they were putting this stuff together at Gallagher, and it was just impressive.
Oh, that's right. You were there. We were doing the European hype.
I was there for the rising of the drum riser, the Lionel Richie piano drum riser that became the Amon Amarth drum riser. And then I was there like in the early beginnings when they were just sketches. They weren't even, a lot of the drum riser and stuff wasn't even put together yet.
Yeah, well, that exactly. So you were there during the inception of some of these ideas. Oh, yeah. That was wow. What can you say?
Like wow. Yeah.
Actually, you know who was in charge of that whole riser in Europe, who really made that happen every day, was James McMahon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love James. I just talked to him the other day.
Yeah, he was the master behind. The other Carps did a really good job, but he understood the whole hydraulic system. He operated it, and he was responsible for it. He did a fantastic job.
So many
James. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
No, just there's so many components to putting on a show. The people on the optics of it, the people looking in on like the fans. Now you're getting a behind the scenes kind of not tutorial, just kind of like a what's happening behind the scenes and how much work actually goes into a production like an Amon Amarth or Cage the Elephant show, which I had no idea how much production could be behind them. I thought they were more indie, but I guess you're bringing that kind of theatrics to that.
They do. Yeah, they absolutely do. They do have cryo, and they've got some flash pots, and it's a multi-layered stage. And this singer Matt is he's a very theatrical guy. He's a very he's got he carries a large amount of costumes and scenery changes and stuff for himself that he wears, and he never does the same thing twice. He's very eclectic. So everything that he does is truly him. He's there's nothing. He's not trying to be anything. He is what you see is who he is. He's a very, he's his own entity.
He's unique.
He's very unique. He's very original.
Unique New York.
Awesome. No, they've come a long way in the past 5 years or something. I've seen them blow up.
More than that, because I remember seeing their showcase in Austin during South by Southwest where they got signed. So that's got to be almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So South by Southwest. Hey.
They're a slow burn. But they've had every opportunity to get bigger, faster. That's not their vibe. And it's really, truly hard to understand unless you sit down and talk to them, because they do this because they love it. And this is like an art to them. I think they're not trying to do it to become wealthy or famous. That's the last thing.
And those are the ones that are the best, the ones that just do it because they love it. And that's why we're here, in general.
Right, exactly. Because they're passionate about it and they enjoy it, and it shows in what they do. With any band that's like that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
So my next question would be this, during this time, obviously, like a lot of the guys I know from different bands, you're off, you're home, nothing's going on.
Everybody's home.
Probably won't be till 2021 if we're lucky, till shows kind of go back to the way they were.
Right.
In the post, and that just sounds so stupid and filmish, but in the post-pandemic world that we're about to live in, what do you see touring looking like? Do you see it going back to the major crowds and Live Nation shoving people into sheds and stadiums and arenas and stuff like that? Or are we in a social distancing world where we're selling far less concert tickets and it's, a situation of safety over sovereignty?
It's a great question.
It's a really good question. And I've given it some thought, and I'm going to put it in terms that are very odd but understandable. I look at this as a broken leg. Have either of you ever had a broken arm or a broken leg?
Nope.
Okay, yes. So you get a cast put on. That's your mask. That's what's going on right now. Well, eventually when they do come up with, and then, by the way, this is just in my humble opinion, and it's worth not even a cup of coffee.
Sure.
But
please,
I think by the time we come up with some sort better virus detection, which they're working on, and or a cure for it, or something to lessen the symptoms, just like with the flu and everything else, obviously it's going to ease up. All common sense stuff. You're seeing it every day on the news. I think the reaction for sports, for movies, for music is going to be like when you have that broken leg and you get the cast off. You don't really walk on it right away. It takes a couple of days before you get the nerve up to put the pressure on it.
Sure.
Then you start to walk slow, and you realize, you know what, I'm not going to break it again. And then you start doing your physical therapy. So that's my way of looking at it. I think we're going to ease back into it, and I think once we realize that we're not going to break our leg, we're creatures of habit. All of us are going to fall back into a lot of routines that we've always done, because a lot of them, they worked. Why change them?
Sure.
And I guess my question to that, my question for your opinion is, based on the post of that broken leg, situation that we're going into, what's there to gain, or what's there right now for somebody that's sitting home? What do you think, or what would you do if you were an artist sitting home right now to kind of subsidize the engagement with your fan base? Because for me, I mean, I'm going to give my quick opinion. It's an opportunity for the artists to be a little bit more engaging with their audience, and in a way they can really get personal with them, right? Where they've been able to do this before because of their crazy touring schedule,
right,
et cetera. So now somebody like we interviewed your brother, who was working with Stephanie Quayle,
right?
She's taking it upon herself to have a show, right? And having
who's a Greensboro native like Steve, by the way.
Actually, she lives right down the road from me.
Yeah,
she does Hey Y'all every morning.
So Hey Y'all,
exactly. We've watched it the past few mornings after your brother mentioned it.
She literally lives down the road from me.
But that's what she's doing, and what she's doing is she's capitalizing on the fact that she can't go out and do these shows, and she's making the best of her time by having other channels to engage with her audience. And what do you think about that? And do you think that's going to carry over a bit into the post-pandemic?
Actually, you kind of answered your own question. I think it's made a lot of people introspective. It's forced everybody to look in the mirror. What can I do? This is I'm in my baby pen. I can't go out. What can I do to engage my audience? What can I do to keep the interest up? How can I further my career within these parameters? And how can I become better at doing what I do? And whether that is some people really taking the opportunity to write a really comprehensive album, or a book, or write songs for other people, get involved in a lot of Zoom stuff, charities, shows like Stephanie Quayle doing a morning show where it's kind of a real a discount version of Hee Haw, and it's really cute, and I like it because it's so real and it's so honest. And it's so her, and it's so Greensboro. There are no layers there. She is who she is. She can carry herself just on a very simple plane of just who she is as a person, just who she is as a musician.
For real.
And I think that their fans are going to appreciate that. I know they do appreciate that honesty with her. And people, you can write in and write to her, and she'll answer questions on the show, and you can say whatever you want to say. You're going to get an honest answer. So yes,
totally.
Yes, everything you said is everything I think that everybody is doing. I know that Cage is working on obviously new music and bettering what they do, and of course those guys all have their own little side projects too, especially with Matt. He's an artist, an artist
painter.
So he's a painter, but acting, he does everything, but he's really into this eclectic painting. I've watched him do it. It's amazing. I've been to one of his art shows.
Oh, it's awesome. Did they use that with any of the artwork that they provide for their music? His artwork?
I think some of it is. I mean, the passes that we wore on the last tour were all his artwork.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
But he's, again, this is his MO. He'll sometimes, after a show's over, walk back out on stage while the crew's breaking down and start drawing pictures for people that are left out in the crowd.
That's cool. That's really
Or he'll go out in the crowd and sit down with some of the people that are left in a circle with his pad, his drawing pad and some paints, and he'll do art with them. There's no division with him. That's
amazing.
To him, he gets up on stage, he does his thing. Okay, that's done. Now I can still continue to be who I am as an individual with the crowd. That they're cool people. I'm going to go hang out with them.
That's amazing identity and commitment. Yeah, that's amazing identity and commitment. And you don't see that in a lot of people.
He's a true artist.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So you kind of touch on that, with bands having these elaborate stage
oh boy.
To, the Amon Amarth show. I was talking to one manager who named this because it was a private conversation, but him and I were talking about it. I said, do you think the budgets are going to go back to the way they were for shows pre-tour, or are we going to have to, like you said, with the broken legs, and have to roll back into it a little bit?
I think everybody's
take our time. It's
right. Yeah. I think it's exactly that, Michael. I think everybody's going to have some trepidation about it and approach it not with both fists pumping forward, but with one fist and one hand on the wallet.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a litmus test. I think there's no way to truly answer any of this with any knowledge, because this
obviously hypothetical for the most part.
Yeah, because this situation in our last pandemic didn't exist.
Right.
So we're all learning here. I mean, it's like when I came home, I knew intuitively even before Q Prime said, "Look, we're going to pull the plug on," because we were on our way to South America for a tour down there, and I just knew that we weren't going, just by watching everything. So, I mean, I've always been good with money and everything, but I'm not good at keeping still.
I know that for a fact. Speaking of which, I know you and I have been trading songs back and forth via Logic. Talk about that a little bit, what you've been doing with yourself creative. I mean, you have been. I mean, it's true.
Well, I actually wanted to finish the story. I wanted to
go. So sorry to cut you off.
I wanted to let everybody know that, okay, well, what kind of job can I pick up right away? That's kind of like my own deal, where I get to do the job myself and not have a boss. I became a driver for Amazon. And it pays really well, but it's going to sound silly, but I like doing it. I like going out and having my route and having a certain amount of time to do it, and beating the clock every day. And for 10 seconds every day, if you do see somebody, you are their best friend, because you're bringing them some crap that they ordered online that they wanted. Now,
anybody can do this, right? You can sign up with Amazon. I see it all the time. I see you offer.
Yeah, I did it for the Flex program. I use my own. I use my Land Rover, and
they're getting high quality smiles.
Right. I show up. You choose your blocks of time. I show up. I collect the packages. I scan them in, and I just today's route was 2 towns around Greensboro, and it was a 4-hour route. I got it done in 90 minutes. It was great. It was fun.
And nobody's
There's hardly anybody out there on the road, and I get to see a lot of places around where I live that I never would have seen before anyway.
That's a great. Yeah,
it was pretty. It was a really beautiful day too. So,
it's beautiful.
Gets you out of the house.
Yeah. Off the streets, or kind of on the streets.
Right.
So you're on the streets. Let's see here. What do you think the forecast is going to be for smaller artists now? Do you think that?
That's a tough one. I want to see how many of these smaller venues were able to survive survive without income to pay their rent, or how many people were forgiving of their rent for them to carry on once this does pick back up. Because there are many smaller clubs, they're not chain owned or anything. And obviously, once again, behind the scenes there, you have the managers, the bar managers, the bar staff, the security, ticket takers, the ushers. Well, I could go on and on and on. People that counted on that money. And the thing is, once it does reopen, how quick will the willingness be for people to actually go back and do that again? Because the time it has been so significant between when everything shut down until now. Don't forget, a lot of people are going to reinvent themselves because they had to. And out of those people who had to reinvent themselves, they may have stumbled onto something that they liked.
Right.
So again, who knows? We'll see. Hopefully, a lot of the smaller venues are going to be available. Because those are the small theaters. To me, the small venues are great. They're the theaters for people that can't get out to a bigger place or really want to go and catch somebody as they're on their way up, if you want to call it that. I think sometimes artists in their most raw form in the beginning like that are at their best. So they're like mini they're mini museums to me.
It's more intimate with when you go to a smaller venue and you're able to capture your favorite band in a smaller setting. And just personally, I know we've all been able to do this, but those are the best shows I've been at, like the ones that are smaller, more intimate.
Agreed.
For sure. And I hope through this, with the PPP loans that they have, I don't know how long they could go without paying their staff and their rent and such, but it's definitely a question that's going to continue to be raised throughout this time, because again, once we're post this, what's going to happen to those venues? Are they going to be open now? Is it, what's going to happen? Like, you don't really know. So the only thing we could do is pay attention to what we're doing now, right? Hope that when things pick up again, we're ahead of the curve because of the time that we put into reinventing ourselves, or reinvesting ourselves in something that's going to, it resonated in the time that we were doing it, and it carries over into the new post-pandemic.
Agreed. Right. Maybe we're better. Maybe we're going to be better at it. Let's hope so.
We got a nice guitar behind you there. I see that.
Oh, well, this is like part of
his HQ.
Actually, this is my writing guitar. All my electrics are on the wall. I don't know if you can see them all hanging up on the wall, going down the line there.
Oh, yeah. I can. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So like in Mike's place, I got them all hanging up. But when I write, I never write on electric guitar. I'll start off on, of course, the trusty old acoustic.
Is that a Guild?
No, it's a crappy $450 Yamaha guitar that can take a beating and stays in tune great. And if you can pull a good riff out of an acoustic, then it's ready to be amplified.
Agreed very much.
Greg is great at that, actually. So Greg, it's funny, and we'll bring up this story for the first few episodes so everyone gets the point. I used to produce Greg's band when he was 16.
Yeah. Right
after certain artists I was working with. And Greg has really become this amazing musician. He was a drummer at the time who got the beating of a lifetime with a metronome by me because of you. But
my nerdy metronome ways.
Oh, dude, like with your tongue hanging out and going That's me, not him. But the thing is that but now he writes everything on acoustic, was kind of my point to the story. And there's a lot to be said about that, writing on acoustic and getting it to the point where the melody is totally developed and the song structure is totally developed, so you can take it to Logic and you take it to Pro Tools or wherever else you're going to take it to. Right.
You got it in its rawest form. If it can stand up in its simplest form, then it stands a really good chance of growing into something.
Oh, yeah.
You just take it, I have an idea, I go through it, and then I start humming a melody, and then all of a sudden I have this whole structure, and then all of a sudden I just lay it down on Logic. Now I know I can play drums to it, right? Now I'll play drums to it, and then that's done. So got your whole song basically right there, and then everything else is like lead guitar. After that, you just texture it on there, and it's raw. And the acoustic guitar is great because you could take that guitar and just come up with a nice little sequence, and it doesn't have to be anything complicated. And you do that, and you can make production after that. You could put an ensemble underneath it and make it sound beautiful, and you can make it electric. You could transpose it to something, could keep it electric and transpose it. So that's always I think that's the go-to for writing.
Agreed 100%. Yeah. Start off with the basic foundation, and we'll worry. Like I always tell my brother David, for fun we write together, and he's, oh, let's do this and that. And I'm like, oh, you're trying to put the siding on before we even poured the foundation.
Nice.
Hey, bro, we have no foundation. How are you going to hang siding?
He's very passionate. Gets very, very excited about things. Okay, so we'll do this and we'll try that, and then we'll do this here and there. I'm like, oh. First off, I don't know if I can remember everything.
And secondly, I'm not a unicorn.
It's 4 chords. Let's keep it at that, and we'll just add it. You go.
We'll build off the first 4 chords, David. Let's start.
Right. He's always saying to me, like, when I send him back stuff, when I finally get his vocal tracks, he's like, oh, you're changing your rhythm parts. I'm like, yeah, I'm changing them around your vocal parts so they match.
How was that process?
Well, you know what I mean? Because a song is written around the vocal melody and everything, and we work in reverse. I send him the music first, and then hopefully that inspires him